next in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids. No one makes countries lie to your face, fight and die. Cause God forgive. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social side, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See their shit, force of air. Fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids. No one leaves countries lie to your face, fight and die. Cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again.
Welcome to the show. This is Game On. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. This is August the 20th of 2015. And tonight we're going to look forward to 2030 for a little bit. Just before I get started on the show, I see Jared. I don't know his last name, nor do I care, and I don't eat there anyways. Jared, the spokesman for Subway, has apparently pled guilty to multiple charges of having sex with children. Way to go, Jared. And I see a high up Toronto police officer who used to work with children has been busted for child porn. Now, it's kind of odd because Jared was immediately cut from Subway, trying to cover their corporate butts, and the policeman in Toronto got bail and is off work with pay, because that corporation really doesn't have to cover its butt, because it was legislated as an arm's length corporation by the province of Ontario. So the police are what they are, and Jared is what he is. And I see Bill Cosby is still having his problems because he wasn't man enough to ask the woman out for a date. He had to drug them. Which brings me back to the question, where did all the real men go? And they're going to have to start standing up. Soon. Very soon. It ain't that big a deal. All you got to do is man up, stand up, say no to all this nonsense that's going on. The world is completely upside down. And we have to right it. Or we're going down with the ship. Anyways, on the show tonight, we have, I'm not going to get through all this stuff in an hour. There's not a hope. But it's called Transforming Our World, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which brings up ex-President Carter, who apparently now has brain cancer, who I saw a little clip today, and he's saying he had a great life, and it was very productive, and yada, yada, yada. And I see Obama and his wife, Michelle, giving their, best wishes to the Carter family, which is all well and good, because they're both working. And they've always been working to destroy America and bring in a world government via the United Nations. So, Jimmy, you lived a long time. You've been a treasonous dog your entire career, at least, maybe your entire life, but probably just your career. They picked you as somebody they could flatter and manipulate and get you to do what they wanted you to do, which you did, and continue to do so. And don't get me wrong, to the Carter family, I hope everything works out. To Mr. Jimmy, you best get yourself right here before you pass away. That's all I got to say on the matter. Anyways, this is just more of the ridiculous crap that's been going on. Anyways, we're trying to get through some of this. The goals and targets will stimulate action over the next 15 years in areas of critical importance for humanity and the planet. For the people, we are determined to end poverty and hunger in all their forms and dimensions, and to ensure that all human beings, which, remind yourself, human beings, right? Go hammer human being into Google, and you will find that human beings are something that evolved from the great ape. Now, if you believe you're a human being, this is probably important news for you. For the rest of us who know we're men and women, it's still important because they're trying to classify us as human beings. Anyways, for the planet, we are determined to protect the planet from degradation, including through sustainable consumption and production, sustainably managing its natural resources, and taking urgent action on climate change so that it can support the needs of the present and future generations. That would be our common future. Under the heading of prosperity, we are determined to ensure that all human beings can enjoy prosperous and fulfilling lives, and that economic, social, technological progress occurs in harmony with nature. On the peace front, which they've not been very successful at, have they? The United Nations is 70 years ago, I guess, and we've had nothing but war ever since. But they got a plan. Under peace, we are determined to foster peaceful, just, and inclusive societies which are free from fear and violence. There can be no sustainable development without peace, and no peace without sustainable development. I don't know where they come up with that one. Anyways, under the heading of partnership, we are determined to mobilize the means required to implement this agenda through a revitalized global partnership for sustainable development based on a spirit of strengthened global solidarity, focused in particular on the needs of the poorest and most vulnerable, and with the participation of all countries, all stakeholders, and all people. The interlinkages and integrated nature of the Sustainable Development Goals are of crucial importance in ensuring that the purpose of the new agenda is realized. If we realize our ambitions across the full extent of the agenda, the lives of all will be profoundly improved, and our world will be transformed for the better. Wow. Now, how could you not possibly buy into that, eh? Wow, where do we sign up? Anyways, they made a declaration here. This is their declaration. Introduction. We, the heads of state and government and high representatives, being at the United Nations headquarters in New York from 25th to 27th September 2015, as the organization celebrates its 70th anniversary, have decided today on the new Global Sustainable Development Goals. On behalf of the people we serve, we have adopted a historic decision on a comprehensive, far-reaching, and people-centered set of universal and transformative goals and targets. We commit ourselves to working tirelessly for the full implementation of the agenda by 2030. We recognize that eradicating poverty in all its forms and dimensions, including extreme poverty, is the greatest global challenge and an indispensable requirement for sustainable development. We are committed to achieving sustainable development in its three dimensions: economic, social, and environmental. That's those three little circles you've seen before. In a balanced and integrated manner. We will also build upon the achievements of the Millennium Development Goals and seek to address their unfinished business. We resolve between now and 2030 to end poverty and hunger everywhere, to combat inequalities within and among countries, to build peaceful, just, and inclusive societies, to protect human rights and promote gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls, and to ensure the lasting protection of the planet and its natural resources. We resolve also to create conditions for sustainable, inclusive, and sustained economic growth, shared prosperity, and decent work for all, taking into account different levels of national development and capacities. You know, if you ever watched the movie 1984, you know, you can just see the big head talking to you here now, right? You know, they've made these decisions on your behalf. Didn't ask you. Nobody voted on it. But we were over that, I think, the last show about the UNPA and the World Federalists and all this kind of stuff. These people working in the background, in the halls of the government, the so-called government, which nothing but a corporate body, for many, 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 many decades now. And they've done it all behind closed doors. I don't recall, now I don't read many newspapers, but I don't recall seeing this particular announcement in any of the newspapers. I just had to go dig it up. Let's see here. As we embark on this great challenge, this great collective journey, we pledge that no one will be left behind. Nobody. We pledge that no one will be left behind. Recognizing that the dignity of human person is fundamental, we wish to see the goals and targets met for all nations and people and all segments of society, and we will endeavor to reach the furthest behind first. This is an agenda of unprecedented scope and significance. It is accepted by all countries. Remember that now. It is accepted by all countries and is applicable to all. Taking into account different national realities, capacities, and levels of development, respecting national policies and priorities, these are universal goals and targets which involve the entire world, developed and developing countries alike. They are integrated and indivisible and balance their three dimensions of sustainable development. The goals and targets are the result of over 2 years of intensive public consultation and engagement with civil society and the other stakeholders around the world, which paid particular attention to the voices of the poorest and most vulnerable. This consultation included valuable work done by the General Assembly Open Working Group on Sustainable Development Goals and by the United Nations, whose Secretary General provided a synthesis report in December 2014. Our vision. In these goals and targets, we are setting out a supremely ambitious and transformational vision. We envision a world free of poverty, hunger, disease, and want where all life can thrive. We envision a world free of fear and violence, a world of universal literacy, a world equitable and universal access to quality education at all levels, to health care and social protection, where physical, mental, and social well-being are assured. A world where we affirm our commitments regarding human right to safe drinking water and sanitation, and where there is improved hygiene, and where food is sufficient, safe, and affordable and nutritious. A world where human habitats are safe, resilient, and sustainable, and where there is universal access to affordable, reliable, and sustainable energy. I mean, how can you not like the United Nations, man? They're going to make the world right. And every single country is party to this nonsense. They all signed on to the United Nations, and they're all states of the United Nations. So I don't know what we got to complain about. We should just sit back and relax. Because these folks, who must have consulted you, because they certainly didn't consult me, but they said they consulted the public. And I guess I'm too much of a pain to be considered public. I don't know. Anyways, where was I here? Yes. Number 8, we envision a world of universal respect for human rights and human dignity, the rule of law, justice, equality, and non-discrimination, of respect for race, ethnicity, and cultural diversity, and of equal opportunity, permitting the full realization of human potential and contributing to shared prosperity. A world which invests in its children and in which every child grows up free from violence and exploitation. A world in which every woman and girl enjoys full gender equality and all legal, social, aid, economic barriers to their empowerment have been removed. A just, equitable, tolerant, open, and socially inclusive world in which the needs of the most vulnerable are met. Now, I buzzed through this last night, and one thing you don't, there's only one mention, and this, I mean, I'm only 10% down this freaking thing. This is one long-ass document. And men and boys in this entire document are mentioned but once. And I'm not sure if they were going to do something for the men and boys or just club them on the head. Get them off the planet. I'm not sure. But there's only one mention. They mention women and girls constantly in this document. Men and boys, one time. We envision a world in which every country enjoys sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth and decent work for all. A world in which consumption and production patterns and use of all natural resources from air to land, from rivers, lakes, and aquifers to oceans and seas are sustainable. One in which democracy, good governance, and the rule of law, as well as an enabling environment at national and international levels, are essential for sustainable development, including sustained and inclusive economic growth, social development, environmental protection, and the eradication of poverty and hunger. One in which development and the application of technology are climate sensitive, respect biodiversity, and are resilient. One in which humanity lives in harmony with nature and in which wildlife and other living species are protected. That's a bad paragraph. That's a really nasty paragraph. Okay, but this is what I said a long time ago. I've said I don't know how many times. The idea here is to get control of all resources on the planet and put them into a trust bank or trust account, and then from that trust account, these people at the global level, your global government, will decide through the United Nations human rights, where they say everyone has the right to adequate this, that, and the other thing, that they will divvy out to you guided by the purposes and principles of the Charter of the United Nations, including full respect for international law. It is grounded in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, international human rights treaties, the Millennium Declaration, and the 205 World Summit Outcome Document. It is informed by other instruments such as the Declaration on the Right to Development. We reaffirm the outcome of all major UN conferences and summits which have laid a solid foundation for sustainable development and which have helped to shape the new agenda. These include the Rio Declaration on Environment and Development, the World Summit on Sustainable Development, the World Summit on Social Development, the Program of Action of the International Conference on Population and Development, the Beijing Platform for Action, and the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development, Rio Plus 20. We also reaffirm the follow-up to these conferences, including the outcomes of the 4th United Nations Conference on the Least Developed Countries, the 3rd International Conference on Small Island Developing States, the 2nd United Nations Conference on Landlocked Developing Countries, and the 3rd UN World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction. Like I said, you got nothing to worry about, man. These guys got every base. They're covered every base now. The challenges and commitments contained in these major conferences and summits are interrelated and call for integrated solutions. To address them effectively, a new approach is needed. Sustainable development recognizes that eradicating poverty, all its forms and dimensions, combating inequality within and among countries, preserving the planet, creating sustained, inclusive, and sustainable growth for fostering social inclusion are linked to each other and are interdependent. Now, they go on here. Let me see here. Where will we go from here? Because this is a big-ass document. Let's go down here to the new agenda. The new agenda. We are announcing today 17 Sustainable Development Goals with 169 associated targets which are integrated and indivisible. Never before have world leaders pledged common action and endeavor across such a broad and universal policy agenda. We are setting out together on the path towards sustainable development, devoting ourselves collectively to the pursuit of global development and of win-win cooperation, which can bring huge gains to all countries in all parts of the world. We reaffirm that every state has and shall freely exercise full permanent sovereignty over its wealth, natural resources, and economic activity. We will implement the agenda for the full benefit of all, for today's generation and for future generations. In doing so, we reaffirm our commitment to the international law and emphasize that the agenda is to be implemented in a manner that is consistent with the rights and obligation of the states under international law. Okay, now, it is a huge industry right now, international law. It is a humongous industry. What got us to here? What got us here? Lawyers. What's going to further strangle us? Lawyers. Because now they've set up the international law and they are cracking laws like you can't believe. And we're all bound by them because we're all states of the United Nations, and all those states are going to be bound by the international law, and that's international environmental law. So some jackass in some little country can make a law that you can't eat a banana on a Tuesday. And if you get caught over here eating a banana on a Tuesday, because these laws become global international laws, you're going to get a ticket for eating that banana on a Tuesday. Okay? They're bringing the noose down on our throats here. And it's time we stood up to this nonsense. You know, I was thinking, before I continue with this, I was thinking yesterday and today, because I am going to have Thomas Deegan on the show on Sunday. I can't wait for that. And, you know, this guy's been through it all, and he gets it now. I mean, he really gets it now. You're not impressed with what he got, but he gets it. But I was thinking, how is it that 300 and some odd million people got conned into believing it? I think it's what is it? What is it? Washington D.C. 10 square miles or something? An area. I'm going to go with 10 square miles. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. An area of 10 square miles has somehow imposed its will upon all the people in America when Washington, D.C. isn't even part of America. How in the name of good God did the United Nations building ever get built? How was it allowed to stand there? How was it not changed into housing or something? How is it that the Rockefeller Group and all of the other tax-exempt foundations managed to carry on all these years, cutting the legs out from under the people of such a vast and wonderful country? How the hell did we ever let that happen? But I think Thomas has some ideas, and I have some ideas that we're going to discuss on Sunday. You can't just keep ignoring what's going on. At some point, we're going to have to stand up and do something about this. Anyways, what do we got here? We're half an hour into this thing, into the show here. Okay, let's jump down to here. Okay, well, let's jump up here for a second. Realizing gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls, again, will make a crucial contribution to progress across all the global goals and targets. The achievement of full human potential of a sustainable development is not possible if one half of humanity continues to be denied its full human rights and opportunities. Women and girls must enjoy equal access to quality education, economic resources, and political participation, as well as equal opportunities with men and boys. And that's it. That's the only time in this whole document, and it's a long one, that's the only mention of men and boys for full employment. So it wasn't a positive for men and boys. It's that women must have 50% of opportunities of men and boys. And I ain't got a problem with that. I also don't have a problem with if you're good enough for the job, go get it. I used to get these people send me resumes who were university and college degreed, and I mean I was out of high school after the first month of grade 11. I have all these. I had the fax machine was just a cranking, and people say, "Did you get my resume?" Yeah. What do I care about that? Right? I only got one question for you. You can do the job. Because there isn't a resume out there written that isn't exaggerated, which is, half a truth's a whole lie. So you went to university, you got taught to make out a resume, but you forgot to tell anybody the truth. So every resume looks pretty much like the next resume. My only question is, do you have the capacity to do the job? Yes or no? I don't give a damn what kind of degree you got. And that goes for this. Everyone has the right to the equal opportunity. Well, of course you got the equal opportunity. Just go get it done. Period. Sorry about that. Anyways, the new goals and targets will come into effect on 1st of January 2016. And will guide the decisions we take over the next 15 years. All of us will work to implement the agenda within our own countries and at the regional and global levels, taking into account different national realities, capacities, and levels of development, and respecting national policies and priorities. We will respect national policy space to be for sustained, inclusive, sustainable economic growth, in particular for developing states, while remaining consistent with relevant international rules and commitments. We acknowledge also the importance of the regional and sub-regional dimensions, regional economic integration and interconnectivity, and a sustainable development. Regional and sub-regional frameworks can facilitate the effective transition of sustainable development policies into concrete action at the national level. Now, this has been going on since at least the early 1900s. That's when they kicked up this foreign affairs crap. It's when they started the wars and the depressions in earnest. Okay, and it is all foreign affairs, foreign business. And especially since 1992, actually prior to that a little bit, but especially since Rio in 1992, with the Millennium Development Goals and that, and the institution of Agenda 21 that was signed on at 92 at Rio. They have been working very hard to implement their agenda without letting you know what they're doing. And this is just going to be more of the same for the next 15 years if we allow it. Now, things have already gotten seriously bad for an awful lot of people since 92. And they will get much worse in the next 15 years if we allow this continue. Okay, as Rockefeller said in 99, I believe it was, something has to take the place of government, and business seems the obvious entity to do it. Okay? So we are already in a state of fascism, and that is the blending of government and business. Although the government never was government, and it has always been business, but they had to pretend they were government. Okay, and as Rockefeller points out, that's messy. That's a lot of farting around. So we can just dump this idea of government and let the global corporations take hold. We don't have to dick around. Now we got international law. We do this at the global level, and if we want to take all your water, or all your coal, or all your minerals, or all your trees, we're doing it for sustainable purposes, which of course is a total and complete lie. Let me see what else we got. They're big on ending poverty here, and another part of that ending poverty, and I have another document, but I haven't got time to do it tonight. I haven't got time to do this one tonight. But this idea of ending poverty, okay, again, that goes back to the Global Trust. It goes to the guaranteed basic income, okay? So they're giving you benefits, and by now, surely we understand you don't get something for nothing, okay? It just doesn't work that way. So they take over all the resources on the planet and give you an adequate basic income. This is where all this $15 an hour stuff that's flying around right now comes from. Okay, it's again problem, reaction, solution. That's all it is. And so the businesses will say, well, we can't afford that. Some will say, yes, we can, because it's the right thing to do. But there's a huge loss to be accepted for that basic guaranteed income. They want to start a global welfare system. And nothing kills people faster than a welfare system. Now, I read some of their documents a while back, and basically the way they got this laid out is you won't have to work. You won't have any freedom, but you won't have to work. You can work if you wish, but then your wages will be considerably lower. There's another way to lower the wages, because you've already accepted the guaranteed basic income. So the corporations won't have to pay you as much. So it's you can work because you wish to work, not because it's going to lift you up anywhere. Let me see here. Let's see what else we can find here. Okay, we commit to making fundamental changes in the way that our societies produce and consume goods and services. Governments, international organizations, the business sector, and other non-state actors and individuals must contribute to changing unsustainable consumption and production patterns, including through the mobilization from all sources of financial and technical assistance to strengthen developing countries' scientific technology and innovative capacities to move towards more sustainable patterns of consumption and production. We encourage the implementation of the 10-year framework of programs on sustainable consumption and production. All countries take action, with developed countries taking the lead, taking into account the development and capabilities of developing countries. Okay, so this is going to be global state production and control, is what it's going to be like. And this is Soviet Russia, basically, is where they're taking us. And that goes back to the Norman Dodds report, which was a Reese Commission report, which Ford, one of the guys from the Ford Foundation, said that they were charged with Sovietizing America. It's the Rockefeller Foundation. That's that wonderful building in New York with all the flags flying around it. And all these years they've been working from the inside to Sovietize the West and the world. Completely controlled food production, automobile production, housing production, water production, sanitation production. They decide it all. And that's why I said we have to consider this as nothing less than the Third World War taking place here. Only they're using psychology, flattery, and benefits, I suppose, to get you to agree to what they're up to. We acknowledge that the UNFCCC is the primary international intergovernmental forum for negotiating the global response to climate change. We are determined to address decisively the threat posed by climate change and environmental degradation. The global nature of climate change calls for the widest possible international cooperation aimed at accelerating the reduction of global greenhouse gas emissions and addressing adaptation to the adverse impacts of climate change. We note with grave concern the significant gap between the aggregate effect of parties' mitigation pledges in terms of global annual emissions of greenhouse gases by 2020 and aggregate emission pathways consistent with having a likely chance of holding the increase in global average temperature below 2 degrees or 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Looking ahead to the COP21 conference in Paris in December, we underscore the commitment of all states to work for an ambitious and universal climate agreement. We reaffirm that the protocol, another legal instrument or agreed outcome with legal force under the convention applicable to all parties, shall address in a balanced manner inter alia mitigation, adaptation, finance, technology of development and transfer, and capacity building and transparency of action and support. We recognize that social and economic development depends on the sustainable management of our planet's natural resources. We are therefore determined to conserve and sustainably use oceans and seas, freshwater resources, as well as forests, mountains, and drylands, and to protect biodiversity, ecosystems, and wildlife. We are also determined to promote sustainable tourism, tackle water scarcity and water pollution, to strengthen cooperation on desertification, dust storms, land degradation, and drought, and to promote resilience and disaster risk reduction. In this regard, we look forward to COP13 of the Convention on Biological Diversity to be held in Mexico in 2016. We recognize that sustainable urban development and management are crucial to the quality of life of our people. We will work with local authorities and communities to renew and plan our cities and human settlements so as to foster community cohesion and personal security and to stimulate innovation and employment. We will reduce the negative impacts of urban activities and the chemicals which are hazardous for human health and the environment, including through the environmentally sound management and safe use of chemicals, the reduction and recycling of waste, and more efficient use of water and energy. And we will work to minimize the impact of cities on the global climate system. We will also take account of population trends and projections in our national, rural, and urban development strategies and policies. We look forward to the upcoming United Nations Conference on Housing and Sustainable Urban Development in Quito, Ecuador. Now, the 1976, if you're not aware, convention or conference, I guess it was called Conference on Human Settlements, 1976, Vancouver, Canada. It states in the preamble that property cannot continue to be held in private as it is a form of social injustice. Now, if you've never watched the movie Soylent Green, I suggest you go dig up a copy. I'm sure you'll find it online just by Googling it and watch it. Because this is exactly the global plan. You're going to be shoved into, promoted as, utopian lifestyles in the inner city, the revamped, the regenerated inner cities, where everything is walkable. Transit is available at your doorstep pretty much, with walking trails and bike trails and green spaces. Oh my goodness, doesn't that sound nice? When in reality, what they're creating is a global slum. If you don't want to be part of the global slum and you don't want your kids to grow up in a global slum, then you better wake up, and you better wake up quick. And you better get prepared to do something about it. All of this stuff, don't care what country you're living in, all of this stuff is being implemented at the local level. It's called local to global. Implemented by your local elected idiots, giving all power and control to the global system. And I always like when they talk about this. You know, we recognize that sustainable urban development management are crucial to the quality of life of our people. Our people. How the hell did you or I become their people? Our people. Now, you could look at that way, a different way, you know. The quality of life of our people, are these the people that are implementing this crap on us? Because when they jam everybody into these city centers and that, I guess they've got run of the world in it. So I guess their life is very sustainable compared to your own. You can take that either way. Now, they have some, this I love, this I really like, because I read about this, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago. Sport is also an important enabler of sustainable development. We recognize the growing contribution of sport to the realization of development and peace and its promotion, tolerance, and respect, and the contribution it makes to the empowerment of women and young people, individuals and communities, as well as to health, education, and social inclusion. Now, I read a document several years back when they decided that they were going to use sports to push the UN agenda, of which they've been doing for quite some time now. And they're using every aspect of your society that they can to jam their propaganda down your throat. And they've been doing a pretty good job of it. The scale and ambition of the new agenda requires a revitalized global partnership to ensure its implementation. We fully commit to this. The partnership will work in a spirit of global solidarity, in particular solidarity with the poorest and with people in vulnerable situations. It will facilitate an intensive global engagement in support of implementation of all the goals and targets, bringing together governments, the private sector, civil service, or civil society, the United Nations system, and other actors, and mobilizing all available resources. So they're going to start coming harder and harder and harder. And on the upside, that's going to start to wake up more and more people, quicker and quicker. These guys know that climate change, I mean, they pick climate change as their main driver, and they know that's a fraud, and they know that people are catching on every day that it's a fraud. So they have to push harder and harder and harder, and again, I look at that as a positive, because then they're going to tick off more and more people, and people are going to start saying, what the hell's going on here, which I find they're doing more every day. And that's just going to cut their own throat. What we are announcing today, an agenda for global action for the next 15 years, is a charter for people and planet in the 21st century. Children and young women are critical agents of change and will find in the new goals a platform to channel their infinite capacities for activism into the creation of a better world. We, the peoples, are the celebrated opening words of the UN Charter. It is we, the peoples, who are embarking today on the road to 2030. Our journey will involve governments as well as parliaments, the UN system, and other international institutions, local authorities, indigenous peoples, civil society, business, and the private sector, the scientific and academic community, and all people. Millions have already engaged with and will own this agenda. It is an agenda of the people, by the people, and for the people, and this, we believe, will ensure its success. Now, does anybody want to puke at this point? Because I know I'm starting to gain pretty heavily, and I read this crap last night. So, this idea of people talking about elections and that, Donald Trump, or up here in Canada, vote NDP, vote the Green Party, vote the Liberals, vote the Conservatives. Face it, your nation is signed on and is a state of the United Nations. It matters not who is elected, because they are bound to treaties and the agreements that have been signed in the past. They are bound by them. The only way out is if you've got somebody who says, and they will mark it in blood, that if you elect me, I will eradicate the United Nations from these lands and all supporters of it. And if I fail to do what I said I will do if elected, then you have the permission to take me out back and put a bullet in my head, because I obviously lied to you. And if you ain't got somebody running in your elections that is willing to do or say that, and you're fool enough to go out and vote, well, you got nobody to blame, do you? Except that reflection staring back at you from your bathroom mirror. That's it. People got to get their minds wrapped around the scope of what's coming at us. I ain't no fearmonger, and I'm not fearful. I'm looking at this extremely logically and critically. And looking at it as a reality it is. This is not some fictional game being played out here. This is not some movie. This is reality. This is your life. And this is the life of your child and your grandchildren, stuck in a vice and squeezing the life out of everybody. Here are the Sustainable Development Goals 1 through 17. End poverty in all its forms everywhere. End hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. Number 3, ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. Number 4, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Number 5, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. See, guys always left out of this, right? Goal 6, ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. Ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, modern energy for all. Number 8, promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. Number 9, build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. Number 10, reduce inequality within and among countries. Number 11, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Number 12, ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. Number 13, take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Number 14, conserve and sustainably use the ocean, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. Number 15, protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation and halt biodiversity loss. Number 16, promote peaceful, inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, inclusive institutions at all levels. And number 17, strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnerships for sustainable development. Acknowledging that the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change is the primary international intergovernmental forum for negotiating a global response to climate change. And this thing goes on and on and on and on and on. And I'm going to stuff it here in the chat so that you can wander through the thing and read it at your own leisure. You know, all this noise I hear from people on the internet makes me really sad. You know, that's where I'm really looking forward to having Thomas Deegan on here on Sunday. I think Sunday is going to be a man up show, actually. I think that's what that show on Sunday is going to actually boil down to. I mean, this guy's gone through this history with a fine-tooth comb. He's been suckered by all these different groups, We Are Change and Occupy, and I think the what do you call it? I think Tea Party group and that. All of them disinfo, all of them controlled opposition. Set up to gather up those looking for solutions but not willing to do any research, so they just jump from one group to the other. Now we have this Ubuntu group running around, which was financed by the frickin' Rockefeller Foundation, as the Occupy was financed by the bankers and that. Now you got these clowns around, we're against the corporations. Well, who the hell financed your movement, you twits? The same ones you're out there raising hell about. Why is that? Because they're changing the financial system of the globe. Okay? It's got to come apart, and it's going to come apart. And people are out there saying, the whole thing's going to crash. That'll be great. Then they'll be screwed. No. Okay? All they're doing is they are rebranding their financial system. Okay? To further empower them. And put you more under their thumb or their jackboot at this time, I guess. They got their foot on your face, for God's sakes. So it's time we all took this, as an opportunity to live life, to really live life. And I think I'm going to end the show tonight with what I've said before. If you still have a functioning brain, which I hope all the listeners here do. I have great faith in the listeners here on UCY.tv. Great faith. And I ask you to spread the WCY.tv link far and wide. We need to build this particular network up as fast as we possibly can. So get out there and spread it out there on your websites and your blogs and your Facebooks and your Twitter accounts. Just spread it. This isn't recreational radio as far as I'm concerned. Okay, the people here got a job to do. They know what the job is. Our job is to raise awareness, to bring solutions, to bring ideas, so that we can shove these guys off our lands once and for bloody all. But I'm going to end this tonight with, if you got a television, do yourself, do your family a favor. Take it out back, dig a hole, say a little prayer over it if you want, but bury the damn thing. Put a little cross on it if you want. Do whatever. Plant some flowers around it for remembrance. Okay? But let it die. Because it's killing you as long as it's plugged into your house. It's killing your ability to think clearly. Because it's always pulling you here and there with nonsense. I know it's going to be tough for people. Been around since you were born, but we got to get rid of the damn thing. I hear music. I want to thank all my listeners. I do a show Saturday night, 10 to midnight on Revolution Radio. It's called Canada Live, and then we'll be back here Sunday at noon with my guest, Tom Stevens. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Take care, and we will see you Saturday night or Sunday. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.